Good morning. My name is Pam Jeffords, and I'm the CEO of the Virtual Exchange here in Denver, Colorado. And I'm also leading up the Women's Initiative for ICOSA. And today I have the privilege of chatting with Anna Catalano. Anna is a renowned speaker on women's leadership issues. Anna has over 20 years of business experience with Fortune 20 companies. She's held executive positions in Asia, Europe, and North America. Today we're talking to her because she holds a broad perspective on the challenges of operating in a global environment and creating high-performance organizations. So welcome, Anna. We're so pleased to have you here today.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Excellent. Well, it seems like every day we're seeing another article in the newspaper about why women should sit on for-profit boards. And I really loved your latest article on your blog, Shades of Leadership, that said the question isn't anymore why, it's why not? And so I really love that, and we totally agree with you. So the question I have for you is, why isn't it happening?
Well, I think, a long time ago, 20 years ago, plus years ago, when I started my career, I thought it was a generational thing. And I kept thinking, all we need to do is get women in the pipeline. As long as we get women in the pipeline, you're going to see more women rise to the top of corporations. And, 25 plus years later, I'm still going around giving the same speeches about we've got to get women in the pipeline. So obviously I had that wrong. That wasn't the solution. I think a lot of it I think there's a lot of factors involved. I think that there are still a lot of biases about and assumptions made about what women want to do, as well as what women are capable of doing. And therefore, women have a really difficult time getting into roles that have P&L responsibility. They tend to go into jobs that are on the functional side. And functional jobs, as wonderful as they are, don't lead to the corner offices. They don't lead to the jobs with great responsibility. Therefore, they don't tend to lead to operational roles. Therefore, they're not considered for a lot of board type roles. So I think that's a big part of the problem, and we actually just need to get some different thinking going on selection committees, I call them, people who are selecting individuals for different types of roles, and really take a look at the assumptions that are being made.
Excellent. And do you believe that some of it is the network? You talk about the selection committee, and that's a network, right? And so is it part of it that the women are not involved in the right networks?
Part of it is networking. I mean, the business world is all about networking and connecting. Women oftentimes are less forthright about kind of getting in there and getting to know people. We tend to be much more collaborative. Therefore, some people, based on the biases they hear, view that as a bit of a weakness and not assertive enough. And so networking is something that actually takes a lot of initiative. And unless you have role models that show you how it's done, you can feel kind of exposed and out there and vulnerable if you're the first one doing it. So, I think there's a real importance of having role models that are good networkers and actually bring people along and show them how it's done.
Absolutely, I agree. And so women, we're seeing now it become a retirement strategy to think about for-profit boards because there's increasing demands regardless of gender. There's increasing demands on board members. So do you see really the trend of people saying, I'll do this after I retire? And do you think it's possible for people to hold a full-time job as well as the demands of a for-profit board membership?
Well, I personally think retirement is being totally redefined. I mean, I left my full-time job when I was 44 years old. And so some people say I'm retired, and some people say she's too young to retire. And I always say you're never too young to retire. But I think the whole image of putting in 30, 35 years with a company and then, getting that gold watch and waiting for the pension and then going and spending your days on golf courses or whatever, I think even though that's being done, I think that there are a lot of people who want to stay engaged and want to stay involved and relevant. So I'm finding a lot of people who, for various reasons, find themselves no longer in the full-time world. Sometimes it's by choice. Sometimes it's because of downsizing that corporations have gone through. And so you have people in their 40s and 50s, even 60s saying, you know what, I'm not done yet. I still think I have a whole lot to offer. And I think now there is so much scrutiny being put on the types of individuals on boards. And boards have changed so much in the last 10 or 15 years. They're no longer kind of a rubber stamp organization where a bunch of guys who are really good friends like to go on trips to really fancy places and have nice meals and sit around and listen to a few people talk and say yes and then go home. Board meetings are very, very engaged. Board members are finding themselves very under a lot of scrutiny, and rightfully so, to really take part in what's going on in corporations. Therefore, boards, I think, are looking for people that have significant business experience and work experience that want to stay very engaged at a high level, not getting into details where the executives need to be, but at a very high level, and creating challenging conversations around the boardroom about business strategy.
Absolutely. And so I'm sure you've seen the multiple studies that are out there, and McKinsey has one that shows a 10% return on investment, a higher stock price growth when there's gender diversity at the board table. So with these studies and with these financial facts, we're seeing a change in mindset that says this isn't a women's rights issue. This is really one of many financial drivers to a corporation to have a gender diverse board. So when we explain this to women and they understand the role that they need to play in their boardrooms and they need to have a seat at the table to drive the financial performance of their companies, then the next obvious question is, okay, I'm bought in, I need to do this, I need to play a role in my business community. How do I do it? So if you had to give the top 3 ways that a woman that is already an executive level woman that now wants to take that next step and be on a board, what would be those top 3 ways that they would go about it?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, Pam, in hitting the fact that this is just a good business decision now. This is not just something that people should do, but it's actually something that companies need. With that in mind, I think one of the most important things women need to think about is how are you going to market yourself, if you will, as somebody who can bring value to a boardroom? What are the relevant pieces of your experience that will cause a different voice to be heard at the table that certain companies need? And so I think that when you're thinking through, yes, there's a lot of people that say, I'd like to serve on a board. And my question is, great, what is it you bring to the table that makes you different and will make you valuable? And it's not just because you're a woman. It's actually because you have had different life experiences. Different life experiences, meaning professional, non-professional, everything. You bring a different brain, if you will, to the table than most people do. But what you need to do is you need to be able to talk about that in a business context. Why is it that being in marketing, or why is it being in communications, why is it having experience overseas, why is that relevant to an organization that might be looking for that type of conversation? I think that if you approach it that way, I mean, it's kind of like applying for any kind of a job. What makes you more qualified than the next person? Take the focus off of the gender, put it on the fact that you have different experiences that will cause a richer dialogue around the table. I think that's really the most important thing.
Oh, absolutely. And so as we're seeing other countries move towards quotas, what is your opinion on quotas to drive progress here in the U.S.?
Well, quotas are a double-edged sword. On one hand, it gets the attention, it gets the conversation going, it gets people talking like you and I are talking about why is this important. On the other hand, I can't run away fast enough from a board that's looking for someone just because they're trying to fill a quota. And I can sense those a mile away. I can sense it in the first two sentences of a conversation. If the only reason someone is looking at me for a potential board member is because they need to fill a quota because some government has required it, I'm not interested. I think that quotas for the wrong reasons are very dangerous, because what happens is in order to fill a quota, some people feel as though they have to lower a bar in order to get different kinds of people around the table. And I think that's tremendously dangerous. I actually believe that by not having women around the table, your bar is already too low. I actually think that by recognizing that women bring different skills to the boardroom, you are in fact raising the bar in terms of the kind of people you want around the table. So it's all a matter of what's the reason why a company is looking at doing it in the context of this country is requiring a quota. But I think there's way too many companies in countries that are in that scenario that are saying, oh gosh, okay, we're required by the government to get 3 girls on the board, so we need to go and find 3 girls. And I have a real problem with that.
Oh, I totally agree with you. And I know that you speak normally at a global perspective, but bringing it back to the U.S. for a moment, I just finished drafting my fantasy football league. So I have to kind of compare it to my fantasy football league. I'm a little concerned that as these other countries have quotas, that they're out there getting our A players here in the U.S. And so as our U.S. companies strive to, one, create an initiative around gender diversity, and then year two is to actually implement their initiative, that all of our A players here in the U.S. are going to be going overseas to countries where there's a quota. I mean, do you feel that that's a risk that the U.S. companies are going to not get the top tier players?
Well, I think it's always a risk, but your top players are, if they're smart, they're going to be very selective. And they're not going to be falling for oh gosh, I want to get on a board so badly, I will take the first one that comes along. And so really, really good people will wait for the right opportunities. That being said, there are a lot of great U.S. companies that are looking to increase their diversity right now. So if a company is not recognizing the importance of that, yeah, they're going to miss the best players down the road. But I'd like to feel as though women who understand what this is about, the really qualified ones, will be very choosy and can be very choosy about which boards they choose to be on.
Excellent. And so for a final kind of thought leadership question, I'm a big destination picture person. I like goals. I like setting goals. And my belief is right now, one of the reasons that we're not in alignment is that there's no true destination picture for women's leadership. So if you had to say, what's that ultimate goal for female leadership in the boardroom, what would you say?
Well, I think that the ultimate goal is that nobody recognizes gender around the table and nobody comes into the room and counts anymore. How many women, how many African Americans, how many Asians? I mean, the ultimate goal is to be able to walk into a room and say, these are very, very smart people who really understand this business, who want to help this company succeed. I think we have a ways to go before that. I think there are some companies maybe that are getting close to it. But I think that that's really the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to make everyone feel as though they have the best people around the room, and nobody is there because someone was trying to create a picture that looked like people were being fair. But, whatever tools it takes to get there, unfortunately, some of those are a little bit uncomfortable for folks, but I really do think that's the ultimate goal.
I love it. And so what we're saying is that the ultimate destination picture of women's leadership is when it's just leadership.
Absolutely. We've got to stop talking about the fact that it's women and not women and minorities and all that. This is all about leadership. And there's no group of people on the planet that own, what leadership is all about. We all lead in very different ways. And that's the beauty of having people who are different around the table, as you get different forms of leadership.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And before we end, is there anything that we didn't cover that you would like to share in this interview?
Not really, other than the fact that I think that there's been some recent research done that shows that when there are more than two women on a board, that the conversation is real different. I think that when I have served on boards where I've been the only woman, and it can feel very lonely. So when you get an opportunity to create more of a critical mass around a table of people that are different, I think that it creates much more of a free flow of conversation. So I think, stay tuned on that subject. There's still a lot of research being done, but I think that's probably the next topic people are going to be talking about a lot.
Well, Anna, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we look forward to hearing more from you. And you can follow Anna's blog at Shades of Leadership, and we'll have it on the VX site as well as the ICOSA site for you all to follow Anna. Again, Anna, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you, and we look forward to having you on the show again.
Well, thanks a lot. Have a good day. Thanks.
All right, take care.